Today we're going to talk about population versus sample in statistics. Now, why is this important? You're studying statistics, and it's fundamental to understand the difference between population and sample before you move on to the next thing, because eventually you're going to have to calculate statistics, and you won't understand what you're doing or why you're doing it unless you understand the fundamentals first. Scientists rarely have the population data. So scientists use samples and calculate sample statistics in order to make inferences about the populations or population parameters. Now, what exactly is a population? Every person or thing in your group of interest is your population. If I'm interested in the color differences of M&Ms in a bag, the population would be the entire bag of M&Ms. Another example of a population would be if I'm interested in the level of aggression in adolescent males, my population would be all adolescent males. Now, what is a sample? A sample is a portion of the population. Scientists study samples in order to generalize to the population. If a bag of M&Ms is my population, then a sample might be 24 M&Ms. We could have infinitely many samples from this bag of M&Ms. I could take 3 from the bag and it would be a sample. I could also take 10 or 15 and they would be samples as well. Another example of a sample, if I wanted to sample adolescent boys, I would take maybe 100 adolescent boys from the population. As you can see here on this slide, I took a sample of the cartoon images from one of the previous slides. On one of the previous slides there were 4 cartoon images of adolescent boys, and here I've selected 2. Now, if we're comparing population and sample, I thought this was one of the better images that showed a good representation of what this means. So you have your target population, which is this, and you're taking a sample from that. So here we have a sample that's representing, this is supposed to represent the population. This is what you do in statistics. In science, they take a sample of something, and then they want to generalize to this entire group. Now, when will you actually use this concept in your life? Well, if you're at a grocery store, or when they're passing out samples of food, they're giving you a small amount to try. For example, you might be given a cracker, which is like a sample, to try, and it's supposed to represent the box of crackers they want you to buy, which will be like the population. So you should understand what a sample is just because of your daily life. Now, if you can take the understanding of sample from your daily life and apply it to this course, then you'll easily be able to understand population and sample, and you can move on to the next step. In summary, populations include the entire group of interest, whereas samples are just a small portion of that population. As you can see here, population, large circle. Sample would be a smaller circle from that large circle. However, we can have different size samples. You could also have an even larger circle in the middle here that could also represent a sample.